Good afternoon, welcome to Secret London with me, Mark Munro. Slowly but surely, London's airports are opening to international visitors. Now, if you've been to London before or are planning a first-time visit, you'll almost certainly recognise this vehicle behind me, the London Black Taxi or the Hackney Carriage. Now today I'm going to introduce you to the new electric London taxi. This new vehicle is the most technologically advanced of any vehicle that's ever hit the roads of London. And I'm going to be sharing with you all the features that are built around you, the customer, the things you thought you did know about London taxis, and a few things you certainly didn't know. But first of all, a little bit about the history of the iconic London taxi itself. The first black taxi in London was the Hackney coach. They were horse-drawn. Hackney comes from the French word hackney, meaning ambling nag. There were fewer than 20 of these coaches operating in 1636, most of them working out of the Strand. The next noticeable evolution of the black taxi came in 1834, when Joseph Hansom patented the hansom cab. This differed from the Hackney carriage in so much as the former four-wheeled vehicle now became a two-wheeled vehicle with a lower centre of gravity and safer cornering. Believe it or not, the first motorised cabs in London were electrically powered. They were nicknamed hummingbirds from the sound they made, and they glided onto the streets of London in 1897. But their range was limited. Where have we heard that before? And they only lasted for about a decade. In 1903, the first petrol taxi appeared, and this was built by the French, by a company called Prunelle, but this too was only manufactured in limited numbers. The big change to the London taxi trade happened in 1929, when Mann and Overton, the biggest taxi dealership in London, sponsored Austin to create a cost-effective cab to dominate the market. And that's exactly what they did. This successful collaboration saw the iconic London taxi design take shape and flourish through many decades. Many different models were manufactured, from the FX3 to the FX4, through to the Metro Cab and on to the Fairway, all distinctive in their appearance but always recognisable as the London taxi. In 1997, the hugely popular TX range hit the streets of London and was probably the biggest single step forward in the history of the London taxi. But the 21st century has seen the world's great cities turn their back on the combustion engines in favour of cleaner and greener alternatives to their taxi trade. And it was the Chinese company Geely who have designed London's first electric taxi in partnership with the London Taxi Company. This is now spearheading the modern future of environmentally friendly taxis in London today. Interesting stuff, eh? So, you've arrived in London for your holiday, and you're staying at your hotel and you're out in London for the day, and you find you need a taxi. Well, what's the protocol for hailing a London taxi? First of all, you need to keep an eye out for that taxi light to see whether it's on or off. Now, a little design flaw with this taxi, and it's only a tiny little design flaw, is that the taxi light is sometimes not very visible in the daylight. If the sun's shining on it, it's hard to tell whether the light is on or off. In any case, if you're hailing a taxi and you're not sure, just stick that hand out. If the driver is empty, I promise you, he will stop. Hi, where are you off to? So once the driver has pulled over, you can state your destination. Now, London's full of a lot of strange sounding place names and buildings. So if you're not sure of the pronunciation, you can show the address on your phone or give him the postcode, or just reiterate together and confirm exactly where you're going. Then it's time to jump in. Which sounds easy, but the doors on this new electric vehicle are what we call coach doors. So they open in the opposite direction. I'll show you. Just a quick word. These doors are heavy doors. They're quite lumpy, so give them a good yank. They're sturdy and you won't break them. They're very solid and built to last. And when you've made it onto the inside of the vehicle, it's the long bar that you pull to close the door, not the small tag at the top. The long bar with the yellow stripe. Give it a good heave because the door is heavy. And if you have impaired mobility, not to worry. This vehicle has a swivel seat and also a fully extendable ramp. just ask the driver, he'll come out and help you into the vehicle. As you can see, you'll be very disappointed. There's no seat in the front. It's purely a luggage well to stow luggage for long journeys. Once you get inside the vehicle, you'll notice a bench seat at the back that seats 3 people, and in front there are 3 flip seats or jump seats, similar to the ones you see on aeroplanes for the crew. So the vehicle seats 6 people. Then once you're all strapped in, it's time to go, and the taxi driver will turn the meter on. You'll notice that when I press the button on the meter, a figure of £3.20 came up. That's £3.20. Now that's the minimum hire price for the taxi, or commonly known as the flagfall. Flagfall relates to an old type of meter that used to be in existence in London. It literally had a flag and the driver used to push it over to start the meter. But more interestingly, there's a number beside that flagfall figure that I want to tell you about. And it's this number here, number 1. That is the tariff number. And if you didn't know, there are 3 different tariffs in existence in London when you jump into a black taxi. So what's the difference between 1, 2 and 3? A lot of people think that black taxis in London are super expensive. Well, that's not just the case. You see, it's all about when you travel. Most people don't know there are 3 different tariffs every day that come into force when the taxi is being driven around London. Number 1 being the cheapest, number 2 being the middle tariff, and number 3 being the most expensive tariff. And these all come in at different times during the day, but are always at the same time. So once you're buckled up, you're ready to go. And one of the first things you're going to notice when you get into this great vehicle is the space. So what's here in the back for you? Once you get going, you can use all the facilities that are available for you in the back of this taxi. Now, first of all, you might want to speak to the driver, so it's really important to know how to do that. And there's a button especially to press so he can hear you and you can hear him, and it's right here. Just press the button on the left-hand door and it'll turn red. That means the driver can hear you and you can hear him. And if you don't want him to hear any more of your conversation, just press it again. It'll turn white and he won't be able to hear anything at all. But it's important that you press it if you want a conversation with the driver, if you want to ask him some questions or ask him about a route that you're traveling. The whole taxi is fitted with little halogen spotlights in the back. These can be pressed by you, on and off, on the left side or the right side or the rear. These modern electric taxis also have free Wi-Fi. We can't be without our mobile devices, our laptops. That's why it's important to have great connectivity when you're in and around London. And jumping in the iconic black taxi, you'll get that straight away. Like I said, it's totally free. Jump in, put in the password, and you're connected. Away you go. And if you need to recharge any of your devices or a laptop, we've got 3 pin points and 2 USB points in the back. In London, we don't have really hot weather or really cold weather, but this new electric taxi has air conditioning. However, if you want to use the air conditioning in these new taxis, you've got to ask the driver to activate it first. So press the communication button, say, driver, can you activate the air conditioning or the heating? He'll do that, and then you can control it on your personal control panel at the back here. Another unique and quirky feature of these vehicles are the rear windows when you're sitting in the back here. Transport for London regulated that all the windows at the back of these taxis should be set above the passenger's eye line, so they never miss any of the spectacular views of London. Okay, time for a little bit of housekeeping. When you're jumping in and out of cabs, you've got property on you. Phones, iPads, bags, whatever. Sometimes we mislay those items. We leave them in the taxi. So what I do if I'm traveling in a taxi anywhere around the world, I take a picture of that cab number. That'll be a plate on the inside of the back of the cab that'll relate the cab to the driver or to the company that's running that particular vehicle. Now, if you take it on your phone and you lose your phone, Normally we have uploaded that photo anyway into an iCloud or a collecting database, so that photo will still be there and accessible by some means. So do it anyway. If property is found in the back of a London taxi, the protocol is for that property to be handed into a police station. The police station will then hand it over to Transport for London Lost Property. Now, obviously one of the biggest items we get left in the back of our taxis are phones. What normally happens, in my experience, is the phone starts ringing, I answer the phone, and then I reunite that phone with the customer as conveniently and as quickly as possible, rather than handing it into the police, and it may take up to 4 or 5 weeks before it would then get back to that customer. We know you need your phones quickly, and we'll do our best to make sure you get them back as quickly and as safely as possible. We do our best to get phones and laptops directly back to the customers, but if we can't, it's then handed into a police station. They then hand it on to Transport for London, and if you need to find that lost property, you need to go to this web address here and then search lost property and fill out the appropriate forms. Another question I get asked is, can I order a black taxi through a ride-hailing app on my mobile device? Well, of course you can. There are 3 big providers in London that offer this service. They are Free Now, Get and Taxi app. These will pick you up where you stand, come to your apartment or hotel at a designated time, and they also have fixed fares for airport runs. Thanks for watching Secret London with me, Mark Monroe. Leave any comments down below. Hit the thumbs up button. If you really enjoyed it, why not subscribe? I hope you found this episode useful, and I hope to see you in London very soon. Stay tuned.